Happy Easter. We did Good Friday last week, and this week we want to do Easter. It's a special, special time for me. Easter was the good Lord turning everything upside down. Before he came and before he rose from the dead, life was normal. You were born, and eventually you died. And that was it. And then when he came, the realization with the apostles and the disciples was, holy smokes, it's not over. They were all mourning and everything because he was dead. And then all of a sudden, he's alive. It blows my mind when I think of what they went through. The disciples on the road to Emmaus, every Mary Magdalene, all of them saying, we had hoped he was going to be, and now, then all of a sudden, oh, but he's alive. Don Francisco sings it beautifully. He's alive and I'm forgiven. Heaven's gates are open wide. You know, it's a whole new ball game. Suddenly, it wasn't birth to death. Suddenly, those were just preliminaries. Death started the real life. And it gave courage to the apostles. Holy smokes. It's like he came and turned everything upside down. And nowhere do I see it more than in my own life. I had tubercular meningitis as a child of 9. And doctors gave me up as dead. I was in a hospital 5 months, 3.5 months in a coma. My parents were called fools for hoping for my life. But they wouldn't give up. They wouldn't give up. My dad couldn't read or write his own name, but he had a faith that was just powerful. And Mom, the same. And they just wouldn't give up. And suddenly, I came out of the hospital. But, you know, I'll never forget the day I was carried out by my father. I'm in my dad's arms, his 9-year-old child, but the meningitis had struck its blow. I couldn't see, and I couldn't walk anymore. It had totally destroyed my balance. There's my father carrying me out of the hospital. I was so excited. It was December 22nd. I was going to be home for Christmas. I remember this is the first time I've been outside in 5 months. And I remember it was snowing. A snowflake fell on my face. And I was just so excited to be alive. And that's where life not ended, but began for me. A whole new life. It's like I died, and yep, I came back. I look at everything since then. The state said I'd never walk again. My brothers and sisters, there's an advantage to being from a family of 22. One mom, one dad, no twins, no triplets, 22 single births. And there were probably 11 or 12 of us at home at that time. I'm near the bottom, so a lot of the others had grown up and were on their own. But my brothers and sisters didn't know the word can't. Oh yeah, everybody said he can't walk. You can't walk, you'll never walk. Their hope was I was going to get strong enough and they were going to send me to a school for the blind 500 miles from home. Well, my brothers and sisters didn't know the word can't. So on their own, they would hold me up by the shoulders and pass me down the hallway, arm to arm. Patrick, we won't let you fall. We won't let you fall. And they'd separate more and more and more so that I'd have to take a step or two to go from one to the other. And in probably a month and a half or so, they had me up walking. It's just incredible. The end, the beginning, the beginning. And then the blindness, what a beginning, a new beginning for me. Everybody prayed, including me, for the cure of my eyes. Everybody was sure the best thing God could do was cure poor little Patrick's eyes. And what kind of a life does that poor kid have to look forward to, the doctor had exclaimed to my folks. But they were going to send me to a school for the blind, and then a public school teacher, wife of an Air Force man, teaching the 4th grade, which was where I was supposed to enter. And she launched a fight with the town. Why should this kid go to a school 500 miles from home when we can teach him right here at home? And she won her fight, except you can have him in your classroom, but if something happens, you're responsible. Thank God she was not frightened by him. And she started studying me like a hawk. First day of school, she watched me, how I moved from one place to another, and she said, okay, we gotta do this, we gotta do this. And she just maneuvered to get me into normal life. She taught me to start memorizing. With my vision, I had one letter at a time I could see. And she said, you're not going to be able to get through school that way. You've got to be able to memorize so that you don't have to reread. Imagine, she taught a 4th grade kid how to memorize. And a lot of places, they frown on it, memorizing. You know, I want the kids to understand. I don't want them to memorize. Well, she taught me to memorize. Way back then, that's 1954, 55. And what a gift it was. I remember my 5th grade, our religion textbook in the parish was the Baltimore Catechism. We'd have a catechism contest at the end of every year. But by that time, I was used to memorizing and loved it. I memorized the whole catechism, cover to cover. The contest, grades 1 to 8 on the stage, and this 5th grader won because I knew the whole thing by heart. And my memory has been such a gift for me. By the end of the 4th grade, Mrs. McGill pushed me into the 5th grade with another teacher, and the 6th, it went on that way. So, blindness was the end, and yet it was the beginning of a whole new life for me. I went through grammar school, started into high school, and was looking ahead. What was I going to do with my life? You know, everybody said, no, you can't, you can't, you can't. You're blind, you can't. No, you can't do that, you can't do that. And I had gone through normal schools. So I started writing to different orders of teaching brothers. Figured I'd be a teaching brother. I knew I couldn't be a priest because they said blindness was an impediment to holy orders. Blind priests might spill the chalice, drop the host, etc. And so that was out. So I said, okay, I'll become a teaching brother. Well, the minute orders found out I was blind, I wouldn't hear from him again. So I got desperate, crazy. I wrote to the Brothers of Christian Instruction and just didn't tell them I was blind. I had a straight A report card that year as a 9th grader and everything, and they made the big mistake of coming to interview me at home. At home, I knew where the steps were, the doorways, things of that sort. I didn't trip around our house too much. And the brother who came to interview me was dressed in his blacks, so I knew him. We sat around gabbing all evening. He never thought to ask me if I was blind, and I just never thought to bring it up. I was accepted to enter the Brothers Prep School that fall as a 10th grader. Well, that was exciting until I got to the prep school. It's a residential school. And I didn't think of other things besides classes. Sports was mandatory. I didn't know what to do. If I went in and told them I was blind to get out of sports, I knew I'd get out of the school for pulling it off. So I went in and played. I played football, soccer, and baseball for 3 solid weeks. They knew something was wrong but couldn't put their finger on it. I got every name in the book every time I'd come up to bat or something of that sort. But finally the director called home. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall that afternoon. He called, said to my mother, "We know there's something wrong with your son. We just can't put our finger on it." And Mom thought I was a discipline problem or something. No, he's excellent. He's already first of his class, and no discipline at all. But he's clumsy as heck. He bumps into doors, he steps on people's toes. He's just a mess. Mom said, "Didn't he tell you he's blind?" I'd love to have been a fly on the wall to have seen his reaction. But I saw it that night. He called me in, and there's another new beginning for me. My whole life is new beginnings. He called me in that night and he said, "Why in hell didn't you tell us you were blind? You could have got killed out there." I said, "You're telling me?" But then I asked him with tears, "If you had known I was blind, would you have accepted me to come here?" I cried as I told him how I wanted so much to give back. I had been given, I get life again, and I wanted to do something with it. But no, you can't, you're blind. No, you can't, you're blind. No, you can't. And I just got desperate enough to sneak my way in. I'll never forget, it was a long pause. Finally, he looked up at me and he said, "Well, from now on, no more sports." That was the greatest relief of my life, to know that life goes on. It goes on. I graduated from the Brothers Prep School in June of '63, and the greatest day of my life was when I found out they were accepting me to take the first step into religious life. And I went on from there all the way. Made first vows, and 5 years later made final vows as Brother Pat with the Brothers of Christian Instruction. And you know, it seemed like that was going to be my whole career, to teach in the brothers' boarding schools and whatnot. I got my bachelor's degree, and then I won a fellowship to Catholic University for a master's degree in library science, to become the boarding school's first full-time librarian. And there, a new beginning again. I discovered talking books, something I could have used all those 17 years before, but had known nothing about. I was so excited as I started reading with talking books. Imagine me reading letter by letter, and now suddenly the books talk to me. It blew me away. And then Robert S. Bray, God rest him, he's dead now, but he was the chief of the Library Services for the Handicapped for the Library of Congress. And he called me into his office and he said, I just heard the story of this blind brother who went 17 years reading letter by letter without knowing anything about talking books. He said, what do I have to do to get you into this work? I couldn't believe it. My blindness was now a door opener, not a door closer. He said, there's 10 million of you out there who could be using these talking books, and most know nothing about it. We need somebody like you to walk the streets and alleys of this country, find the handicapped, and help them find the services that too many of them go without. Wow. The order said, yes, go ahead and try it out. My first job working with the handicapped was in New York City. The New York Public Library hired me as a roving librarian. It was my job to travel the 5 boroughs of the city, the 2 counties of Long Island, and find the handicapped and help them find the services that too many of them were going without, only because they didn't know about them. I worked there. I loved it. I loved New York. And I worked there for 3 years. And then the bishop of the Diocese of Norwich, Connecticut, heard about this blind brother that was roaming around at helping the handicapped. And he called up, I need somebody like you in my diocese. We're founding a ministry for the handicapped, and we need somebody to inspire the handicapped that they too can serve. I cried because there it was again. The blindness was the door opener, not the door closer. It was just incredible. He's the bishop who went all the way to Rome and met with Pope Paul VI and came back with the greatest Christmas gift of my life, Christmas of 1975, Christmas of 77, I'm sorry, permission to be ordained a blind priest. Wow. I was ordained in October 78, and I've been on the road. I remember I said to the bishop, are you going to assign me to a parish somewhere? He said, Patrick, I'm ordaining you for your work, not to take you away from it. Your parish, he said, it's the whole world. Get out and find the broken like yourself and help them find God's love for them. Wow. Talk about a new beginning. That was my whole life, and it's been that way ever since. I have now traveled all over the world. I've spoken in more parishes, countries than I can count. Just basically, you can. Helping people to discover the gift of their disabilities. We look at disabilities as, God looks at them as a new beginning. He rose from the dead and turned everything upside down for the world. Death was no longer the end, but the beginning. Disabilities weren't the end, but now new beginnings. I cry when I look at how God has changed my life. My favorite verse in the entire Bible, Psalm 103, verse 4. He redeems my life from destruction. He doesn't give us the destruction. Too many people have said, oh, it's good God made you blind because look what you're doing. I said, no. Would you have made me blind? You had no right to blame God. When God created all was good, there was no suffering. But he refused to be mastered by it and has turned it into good. My life today, I'm looking at me here now sitting with you at the Villa de San Antonio. San Antonio, I'm from Maine. How'd that happen? But that's God. He's turned my life upside down. The rules don't apply. What a gift of God. What a gift of God. Of life he's given me. I'm just thrilled to be here, and I just pray that somehow my being here inspires others that suffering isn't the end. Death isn't the end. With his love, we can go on. God bless you all, and a happy, happy Easter.